So you want to take your icer tip, and the icer tip has two sides to it. It's got the smooth side and the serrated side. The serrated side is going to go right against the cake, and you want to start at the bottom edge, and as you're squeezing, you're turning your turntable. This is the easiest way to apply your icing. Now again, this cake is crumb coated, so I have a little bit of icing on here, but you can do the same method to a cake with no icing. So all I'm doing again is applying the icing. Then we'll go up to the top level. Usually you have your cakes, about 4 inches in height. This is about 3 inches in height, so I have a little bit that's going over. If it doesn't cover completely, it's okay. I have some gaps. That's fine, because we're going to take the spatula and we're going to close those gaps. Then you're going to go into the center, and then again you're using the turntable with pressure on the bag, and then go all the way into the center. So you're using the inertia of the turntable along with squeezing the bag. And now I have applied the icing. It's not done yet. Okay, so what you want to do is, because I've got gaps here and here, I want to make sure that I close those gaps, and I'm taking my spatula to the top. I'll go to the top first, and I'm going to manipulate the icing with a back and forth motion of my spatula. And when I want to lift up, I'm actually going to finesse out and lightly lift away. So that way I am not pulling up and pulling up crumbs or pulling up the bottom layer of the cake icing. So if you've already done cake a crumb coat, you want to make sure that it's been in the fridge. That way that crumb coat will stick. This has not been in the fridge. It's at room temperature, so I have to be very careful. Now I'm going to take this applied icing, and I need to make it stick. So all I'm doing is a back and forth motion. They kind of call this the Martha Stewart casually iced cake. And see how I'm filling in the gaps? There's the gaps that I had missed. And that way I know that my icing is stuck to the cake. Okay, and then any extra, again, I'm finessing away, and then I'll put that right back in my bucket. So now for the final, you want to make sure, for the final frost, you want to make sure that you have a pretty clean blade. And then when you go to touch the cake, any extra I'm just going to pull off. But now I want to take my blade and go just push very lightly. It's a light pressure. Your spatula is angled. You can use a bench scraper, and the blade has a little bit of an angle, but it's pretty flat. And you want to keep it as straight up and down as possible. Now, I, like many people, want to press in, but I have to remember to keep it as straight up and down as possible. The other thing that I'm working with this cake is I've got that board down at the bottom, so I am going to keep for this cake just a little bit of an angle, because I want to make sure that I don't expose. I don't want to expose the cardboard. So again, I'm pressing, and we've got a lot of icing on it, so I have, I'm able to take a little bit of icing off. I don't want to get down to the crumb coat. Oh, and I just did. So if you get a little bit of thinning right here, you're going to see a little bit thinning. What you do is just go back and then put a little bit more icing on it, and then go back and then you're going to do another swipe through. Now, if you have a lot of bubbles, that's where I'll go back and I will add just a little bit more. I've got a crumb that got in there somehow. And you just want to just smooth that out. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to the top. The other thing too, if you have a little bit of water, you can put your spatula in the water, clean spatula in the water, and that'll help smooth out the bubbles too. But you want to make sure that you shake off the water. So hot water's good because then it heats up your spatula. Now when you go to work with the top, what you're going to do is you're actually going to shave. So your spatula is pretty flat, and I'm just shaving toward the middle so that it's, again, gets to be nice and flat, so that you have a really flat canvas to work with. I'm pulling in those edges. Since your icing has got a little bit of meringue powder in it, after you let this set for about 15 minutes, or you can put it in the fridge. Oh, I just pulled into that. Put it in the fridge for about 15 minutes. Then it'll be like kind of hard to touch. You know, when you touch it, it's not going to bring up the icing. You can take a little bit of wax paper and then put your wax paper on top. Just going to go around the top, bring those edges in the middle. Now you can spend a whole lot of time, but this is how you frost a cake.